After surviving an equally challenging 2021, we welcome 2022 with open arms. We have been through the effects of the pandemic together. We are physically exhausted, mentally drained, and socially distanced. We have languished together, but 2022 provides hope and chance for things to get better. The elections are coming, vaccinations are ongoing. We can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. We, at PVP, as an insights, solutions, and training company, provide services in market research, organizational development, and mental health and wellness.
Hand in hand, let us equip ourselves with the latest trainings and products that will enable us to face the challenges with confidence and grit.
Let 2022 be our best year ever. Let us flourish together. PVP, your purposeful, value-centric partner.
For attending this session. Okay, so hopefully you will get what you want and what you need from this short learning session. Okay, so this is an introduction to HR analytics. Now, let me start off by having this reminder that the assumption here is HR tayo. Nasa HR perspective, and when you say HR, human resources, of course, you are dealing with people and you yourselves are persons as well. No? So sabi nga nila, when you are dealing with people, remember that you are not dealing with creatures of logic, but rather you're dealing with creatures of emotion. Okay? So it goes both ways. As an HR professional, you are, tao ka rin, and then you are dealing with people as well, na tao din, no? There is the assumption that people are supposed to be logical, especially in the context of, the workplace, businesses. Pero yun nga ba? Okay, can we make that assumption? Actually, you'll be surprised, no? Scientific studies will tell you na hindi. Most of the time, we are actually ruled by our emotions. Okay, short, quick exercise. Meron akong scenario sa inyo. No? Halimbawa, nag-apply kayo for work. So you went through the process, nag-interview, ang dami, no? You went through the whole process. And then finally, natanggap na kayo dito sa kumpanyang ito. No? And then pinatawag na kayo. And ang kaharap niyo mismo ay yung CEO, no? Yung president ng company. He wants to make an offer na. No? Tatanggapin ka niya. And then sasabihan kayo ng CEO na, okay, tatanggapin ka namin. No? Gusto ka namin, we need you, you have the right set of qualifications. Now, let's talk about your salary. Magkano ang ipapasweldo namin sa iyo? Now, we are going to present to you two salary options. Now, may option A, may option B. So, ipapakita ko sa inyo sa next slide yung two options, two packages. But, may hitch. You have to make a decision in 10 seconds. Okay? So be ready. Tingin po kayo sa screen because in 10 seconds, you have to make a decision. Whether package A or package B, or package 1 or package 2. Right? Okay, and you have to type in your decision dun sa chat box natin. Para lang may resibo tayo. At hindi magbago ang isip nyo along the way. Alright, so here are the options. If you choose option 1, you will get a monthly salary of 300,000 pesos. And the contract is for 3 years. fixed salary, 300,000 per month for 3 years. That is option 1. Now, for option 2, you start with 1 peso. Piso lang. Piso ang sweldo mo on the first month, but it will be doubled every month. Meaning, piso sa first month, magiging 2 pesos on the second month, magiging 4 pesos on the third month, magiging 8 pesos on the fourth, 8, 16, and so on and so forth until the third year. So 36 months then. Clear ang option? Okay, now you have to make a decision in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Type in your option. Just say 1 or 2. Okay, wala nang bawian ha. Kasi ganyan talaga sa totoong buhay. You have to make quick decisions. Nasa huli na po ang pagsisisi. Alright, since wala na tayong oras, so let me just lay down what's the consequence of your options. So, well, let me quickly go through lang. Tingnan ko lang kung ano yung mga karamihan na sagot. Okay, offhand, I'm seeing a lot of 1s, but there are, may mga 2 din. Okay, wow, yabang. Dami nagtutu, oh. Seryoso kayo? Alright, tingnan natin ang consequence of your options. If you chose option 1, 300,000 per month for 3 years, magandang decision ba yun? Yung mga option 2, katangahan ba yan? Piso, papayag ba kayo? On the second month, 2 piso and so on. Alright, let's make the computations. Tingnan nyo yung consequence of your options. Kung option 1 kayo, so 300,000, playing safe, that's good, that's good. On the 15th month, by then, you would have had already 4.5 million, right? Not bad. Good decision, it seems. Oh, yung mga pumili ng option 2. Piso, 2 piso, 4, 8, doble ng doble. But look, after working for the company for 15 months, 15 months 1 year and 3 months na kayo, ang take-home pay nyo ay, charan, 16,384. Sa taas ng gasolina, sa mahal ng bilihin ngayon, do you think you would have survived? Kulang na kulang, di ba? But wait, there's more. 36 months ang contract, di ba? Let's see. Option 1, tuloy ang ligaya. But wait, look at option 2. Kanina, nasa 16,000 lang yun on the 15th. Tapos ito na. Wait, bakit ang laki na? On the 18th month, 131,000 na. Oh, not bad. 19th, and so on and so forth. And wait, look at this. On the 30th month, ang sweldo mo, 536,870,912. Is that even possible? Di ba nagsimula lang tayo sa piso and then the contract simply stipulates double every month? No? Na-imagine nyo, naaabot sa ganyan? Dahil nyo pang nanalo sa loto. Dahil nyo pa ang pinanalunan ni Pacquiao sa kanyang mga laban. No? Not bad, right? And hindi pa po tapos ang laban. That's just the 30th month. 36 months ang contract. Ang ending, well, Those who chose option 1, you got 10.8 million pesos in a span of 3 years. But in option 2, wow, staggering. 68 billion pesos ang total na nakuha mo. Right? Sa mga pumili ng option 2, na-imagine nyo yan? I'm sure you attempted to make some quick calculations. That's why I gave you only 10 seconds, diba? But did you even imagine na aabot sa ganyan? Alright? Now, what's my point here? That we are humans. And yes, we try our best to be logical. But in most cases, we don't have enough time. We don't have enough information. We don't have enough resources to be really logical. And even if we want to, ito na, human beings are really bad decision makers by design. Default yan. We are creatures of emotions na override yung logic natin. And that is a fact. No? And now what I'm pointing here is that ito yung mga core reasons why your organization really needs analytics in the field of HR, and not just HR, the field of marketing, operations. No? Bakit? Kasi yun na eh. Human beings are really bad decision makers. At makita nyo na. Diba? You might say, oh, ano lang yan? Baka dahil laro-laro lang to, yung hypothetical yung question ko sa iyo. No? Even in everyday decisions, in your office, in your operations, you'll be surprised. Many of your decisions, akala mo are logical. But actually, they are more emotional, more intuition-driven. Okay? There's a second very important reason, no, which I will discuss later on. Yung business imperative, no? Value creation has already shifted. Yung value is generated not from, physical, tangible assets, but rather nag-shift na siya sa mga intangible assets, which are driven mostly by human resources. No? And then the third important reason why we need HR analytics is that we must use metrics and data in order to speak the language of business. Going back to the first point, human beings are bad decision makers. Do you know that for the past almost 100 years already, science has already established the fact that when you hire, algorithms are much better basis instead of instincts. Studies have shown that an algorithm will increase the ability of recruiters to find the best qualified candidates by more than 50%. Algorithm-based recruitment, attrition rates are much lower, by 35%. Performance are 20% better. Revenue per employee has improved by 4%. Okay, now these are scientific facts, and we have known this for the past 50 years. And yet, I bet in your company, look at your recruitment, your hiring practices. Are you using algorithms? Or chances are, I'm almost certain everyone, tingnan niyo yung proseso niyo mabuti. They're not. Diba? Malaki ang factor ng gut feel. Bakit kayo nagpapa-interview? Interviewin pa kita, no? Tapos si hiring manager, kailangan makausap ko yung tao. Kailangan maramdaman ko yung ano niya, yung aura niya, no? When in fact, algorithm meaning, I don't even need to meet the person. I just need all the facts about the person. If I have the right inputs, then I could already make a decision na, this person will become a good hire. Okay, and yet we never follow science. No, in practice, parang hindi eh. Kailangan ko talaga siya makita eh. Right? Parang sa dati, ano, yung Google Maps, yung Waze, there was a time na hindi natin pinagkakatiwalaan, di ba? Algorithm-based yan eh. Maniwala ka, he is finding the best path for you. And yet, di ba nananaig yung instinct na hindi, alam ko tong daan eh, alam ko yung ganitong oras, alam ko matraffic yan eh. Di ba? Gumaganon kayo. No? Nag-aagaw-agaw yung logic and intuition. Why don't you trust algorithms? The second imperative, yung business side. Now, value creation, as you can see here, back in the 1970s, 1980s, yung mga malalaking companies, they are able to generate value simply because they have large assets. Physical, may planta, may machineries, tangible assets. But we know these days that some of the biggest brands in the world are not, driven by tangible assets. No? Look at these companies, no? Apple, Google, Facebook, no? Amazon, Disney, McDonald's. No? It's not so much about the tangible assets. It's the intangible assets that creates their value. And when we say intangible assets, ano yun, no? Trademarks, franchises, copyrights, no? Yung innovation, goodwill, patents, brands. No? And most of these are coming from the people. Na yung mga tao, yung creativity. No, that's where the value comes in. But the problem here is, intangible nga eh. Mahirap siyang i-quantify. No? So marami tayong problema dyan. No? Na we know people are very important. We value people. But ang hirap i-quantify ang direct contribution ng tao eventually doon sa business natin, sa profits. Unlike kung mga machines ang pinag-uusapan natin, no? Parang ang dali mag-peg. For every X amount of peso investment, I know exactly what comes out. Sa tao, training. For every 1 peso spent on training, how much ang bagsak niya doon sa ating sales, sa profitability? Hirap, di ba? For every 1 peso that you spend for the mental health programs that you are instituting, for the well-being programs, can you easily quantify ang impact niya sa profitability? Ang hirap. Right? That's where the problem comes in. And that's the reason why nag-aaway lagi ang HR and finance. Pag si HR humingi ng budget, ang daming ang daming justification kailangan. No? Hindi sila nagkakaintindihan ng inyong CFO, no, ng Chief Finance Officers ninyo. Pero bakit pag si marketing ang humingi, bigay agad? Kasi si marketing, kitang-kita ang impact. Si operations, pag humingi sa operations, kitang-kita ang impact. Pero pag si HR humingi, ang hirap eh. Well, largely kasalanan din kasi ng HR. Because for the longest time, HR do not speak the language of business, which is money, peso. We need to quantify yung mga actions natin. So could you imagine kung nasa HR kayo, no? And then look at this. Does your HR manager or director sound like this, no? When he or she makes his or her argument, no? Does your HR say, oh, investing an additional 1 million pesos in training would reduce voluntary turnover by 10%, save 1.5 million pesos, and increase productivity by 5%? Parang hindi HR, di ba? This means that the organization could increase revenue, production, per customer served by 5%, with only minimal increases in workforce costs. For a company with 1 billion peso in annual revenue, this would be worth up to 50 million in ROI to the organization as increased revenue, improved profit margins, and reduced costs. That's the kind of language na gusto marinig ng CEO ninyo, na gusto marinig ng CFO ninyo, because that's their language. And the marketing department, the operations department, they could easily speak in that manner because that is their language. Ang HR hindi eh. Boss, kailangan natin pangalagaan yung mental health program, ang mental health ng mga empleyado natin kasi mukhang nahihirapan sila. Yeah, while I know that it's needed, it seems important, but the next question is, can you quantify? Paano yung ROI niyan? Paano yung impact niyan sa finances natin? Hirap yung HR dyan. Okay? So those are the three things which I think should be the imperative why we really need to move towards HR analytics. At the psychological level, people are really bad decision makers. That's one. Pangalawa, the value, the shift of tangible to intangible assets, mahirap i-quantify. Right? And then the third, we need to speak the language of business sa HR because up until now, no, most companies don't speak that way. So, saan papasok yung HR analytics dyan? As you can see, to address those three imperatives, no, to deal with those imperatives, HR analytics is quite perfect for that. So what is it really? No? It is the systematic identification and quantification of people drivers of business outcomes. So if you look at the figure here, on the left side, these are the metrics, the things that HR concerns itself with. Right? Ito yung mga activities ng HR. Ito yung reflections, no? Metrics. Now, we need to establish and quantify its impact on the business outcomes. Revenue, productivity, expenses, profit, yung mga bottom lines natin. As far as your CEO is concerned, as far as your CFO is concerned, syempre, ito yung tinitingnan nila business outcomes. That's the reason why yung HR laging tinitingnan na gastos lang yan. No? Kasi hindi nakikita yung direct impact. So that's the task of HR analytics. To quantify, show the impact from what you do on the HR side all the way to the bottom lines of the business. And we are doing this in a very systematic manner, quantified, so hindi based on gut feel and intuition. And how do we do it? That's where we use different types of data and different types of tools. Now, how come HR analytics lately lang siya yung medyo napauso siya, no? Well, to a large extent, I would say it has something to do with the how. Because in the past, it seems very expensive to come up with systems, with databases, to come up with or to avail of services of tools. No? But these days, especially in the recent years, the past 2 to 3 years, substantially, nag-change na yung landscape. The tools have become accessible. They have become so much cheaper. And the required skills to do analytics in the past, wow, you need a master's degree, you need a PhD, you need to have programming skills. Hindi na ngayon. It has substantially changed. The landscape has substantially changed. The kinds of tools that are emerging now are not only cheap, not only efficient, but they are very easy to use already. Hindi mo kailangan ng hardcore statistical or programming training. Kahit po BA English po ang inyong tinapusan, kahit marketing, kahit communications, kahit BA philosophy po kayo, you can run analytics because of the tools that we have now. Right? So that's why we are excited, no, with this field. Na in the past, parang wow, pang elitista lang ito. Para lang ito sa mga companies who can afford to invest on people with high level of competencies and to invest in high level technologies. No? These days, nope, hindi na po kailangan. So as you can see, the nature of HR analytics is really connecting what we do in HR all the way to the bottom line. No? And we do this by establishing metrics showing their impact on the different components of the business, no? Yung impact ng human capital on the operations, on the customer, and all the way to the financials. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, ang bilis humingi ng marketing. Kasi ang marketing, yung kanilang mga metrics are directly related to the financials. Si operations, more or less. Pero si HR, ang layo eh. How do I connect my training cost to revenue, to profits? Why do I spend on making my employees engaged and happy? Anong connection nun sa revenue? Alam kong meron, pero sige nga, quantify it in peso terms. That's the challenge. And HR analytics serves that purpose. Now, when you talk about the analytics, the analysis part here, there are different levels. May tinatawag tayong descriptive, may diagnostic, may predictive, may prescriptive. Now, you might want to assess where you are, yung company nyo, yung department nyo, no, or in practice. Chances are it's a combination. No? But when you do descriptive analytics, ito yung kinds of analysis where you can answer questions na what happened. Ano nangyari? Meaning, you just describe past events. Things like, ilan ang na-hire, ilan ang nag-resign, ilan ang high performers natin. Right? Ilan ang good hires, ilan ang bad hires. Descriptive analytics. Ano yung engagement score natin last year? Ano yung attrition rate natin? Okay? But what can you do with that kind of information? It's an information about what happened in the past. Yes, it's helpful, but not powerful enough, no, for us to make decisions, no, sa future. Now, to make it a little bit more useful, you need a higher level of analysis. No? Ito na yung, can I answer the question, why did it happen? So what happened, for example, bakit 9% ang attrition natin? Bakit ang daming nag-resign in the past 2 years? Why did it happen? Ano yung drivers? Ano yung push sa kanila? Hindi yung exit interview data, because that is sobrang kulang na kulang yan. No? Baka invalid pa nga yan. No? So, if you are able to answer these kinds of questions, you need diagnostic analytics. So, predictive analytics, you already can project what will happen. So, for example, pagpasok pa lang, pag-hire pa lang ng isang tao, alam mo na kung siya ay magiging high performer, magiging average, moderate performer. Do you have that algorithm to predict? Okay? So kung kaya niyong gawin yan, ibig sabihin you're already practicing predictive analytics. Yung highest level, prescriptive analytics, ito na yung you can create already scenarios. If I hire 5 people, itong mangyayari sa sales. If I hire 10, itong mangyayari. If I hire 8, itong mangyayari. Therefore, what is the optimal number? If I increase engagement score by 1%, itong mangyayari sa sales. Kung mag-increase yan by 5%, ito ang mangyayari sa sales natin. If you can make those kinds of predictions, then those are already prescriptive analytics. Right? So, you might want to analyze na yung company nyo, yung department nyo, yung practices nyo. So, kung ngayon, typically, most companies will have reports. No? And those reports simply describe what happened. Descriptive analytics yan. Standard trend reports, metric scorecards, ad hoc reporting. Pag hinihingi, ilan na yung ano ko, humihingi yung mga ibang departments ng HR information. So those are very descriptive. So what do you do with that data that you have? No? So using past data to predict what will happen in the future is so much more powerful. But you need some kind of analysis, no? Para mag-generate yung mga insights na gano'n. Right? Now, just a quick way of showing you what kinds of insights can you get. No? If you use descriptive, ito lang yung mga tanong na masasagot mo. No? How long itong empleyadong to, how long have they been with the company? So you know the tenure, you know the average tenure, and so on. Fine, but not so useful. But ito, with predictive analytics, you could already say, how long? I can't predict. Hindi pa nangyayari. Pero alam ko na based on the profile ni Juan, given this combination of data, information about Juan, he will approximately stay 2.5 years in a company. He will be driven, motivated by these things. He will be demotivated with these kinds of factors. So may magagawa ka na bago pa mangyari. What is one's marital status, salary, performance rating, traveling time to the office? You easily get this sa mga surveys ninyo. 201 files, yes. But what do you do with those data? Do you apply predictive analytics so that you could answer questions like, okay, so what variables affect job's tenure? Ano yung mga drivers para I could create interventions para hindi siya umalis agad, para mas motivated siya, para mas tumaas ang engagement niya. Who are the best performing employees? Yes, descriptive. No? Alam mo yung kanilang performance rating in the past 2 years and so on. Fine. But can you do something with that data so that you can have an algorithm for predicting who are likely to become best performers even before it happens? Ibig sabihin, sa hiring, sa selection pa lang, can you use an algorithm that can already predict that? Oh yes, that is possible. That's what we, I'm a faculty sa UP, no? If you're familiar with the admissions, no? Sa UP, yung UPCAT, that's what it does. The UPCAT is one of the screening tools plus many other information. May algorithm yan. Based on those numbers, on those scores, each applicant will have a predicted grade. Ibig sabihin, nag-a-apply ka pa lang sa UP, napipredict na ng UP kung anong mangyayari sa iyo 4 years down the line. Alam niya kung magiging summa cum laude ka na, kung magmagna cum laude, or pagsakin ka. Kaya hindi ka na nila itatanggapin. No? Predictive analytics yun. An algorithm ang ginagamit. Past 2 years, walang UPCAT na nangyari, walang exam. Kasi hindi pwede magpa-exam. So we had to change the algorithms. No? Kasi ang laki ng input ng exam. Tapos all of a sudden, wala ng exam. So we just use high school grades sa math, sa science, sa English, sa Filipino. Well, social sciences. No? Based on those 5 numbers and some demographic variables, we created another algorithm to predict. Pwede pa rin. Nagpipredict pa rin, even without the actual UPCAT exam. Okay? So that's the same thing. Sa companies, you already have historical data. Diba? Ilang years na nag-exist yung company. Ang dami na nag-resign, ang dami na nag-stay, ang dami naging top performers. What do you do with that data? You could already use that to create algorithms which can be used to predict performance ng mga applicants ninyo. Alright? So, do you use that? How many hours of training did our sales employees have last year? Yeah, descriptive. Ano yung information na yan? Pero, if you could specify what is the exact impact of the training program in terms of peso value, ROI. Hindi yung, masaya yung training, may natunan ako. Bottom line, magkano ang ROI? What is my engagement score? Yes, tumaas ako last year, bumaba. Fine, that's descriptive. But, ano yung impact niya on sales? Okay, that's the value of the insights that you get from predictive analytics. Okay, next general thing that you should understand. So how do I do that? How do I, maximize and generate those insights? The typical analytics approach would follow this model. May different models, but generally this is the process. If you look at it, it's a typical problem-solving approach. It's a typical research process approach. You start with a business question. Okay? When I say business question, these are questions that your CEO wants to have answers for. Hindi questions na interested ng HR, but rather questions na gustong-gusto ng CEO, kailangan niyang malaman. So it has something to do with sales, profitability, and so on, and linking HR. So very critical itong first step. You don't just fire away, meaning, I have a lot of data here, may database ako, dami-daming data, nakaupo lang sa Excel sheet sa laptop namin, and then let's see what I can find out. Nope, that's not a good, efficient way to do it. You have to have a clear business question, may focus. Once you have a question, meron kang hula, anong sagot sa hula mo? You have to have a hypothesis, right? Then start collecting data. You run the analysis, you reveal the insights. Ito na importante. And then for every insight, meron kang recommendations. Once you have the recommendations, it doesn't stop there. You have the challenge to make sure that the people who will act on your recommendations, who will give the funding, who will give the budget, or who will give the go signal, you must be able to convince them. So you have to get your point across. Kasi even if you have the best insights and recommendations, you know it really matters. But if you are not able to convince the people who are supposed to be convinced, edi wala din. Maraming times na po sa history natin nangyari yan. Some people have very great insights, data-driven, but they were not able to convince. Take the case of COVID. Bakit nangyari ito sa atin? Yung buong mundo nag-suffer. Wala bang naka-generate ng insight na to? Many back years before this happened? Oh yes, there were a lot. Pero hindi na-convince yung mundo. Right? That's a good example. No? Wala eh, hindi na napaabot, hindi enough to move the people who are supposed to move. And then, of course, implement, evaluate. Right? To see those steps in action, let me show you one example here. Case study. Nielsen. It's a worldwide global company. Siyempre may Nielsen din tayo dito. Sila yung track ng mga TV ratings, for example. Now, they have worldwide units, business units, and at the worldwide level, one of the business issues that they have identified is that the rate of attrition was quite high, especially for yung entry level, yung mga associates na tinatawag nila. Okay, so that's the major business issue. Now, why is it a business issue? Because ang laki ng cost of attrition, cost of replacing those who are leaving. Okay, so step one, you have to frame the business question. So this is how they framed it. What are the factors? Why are the associates leaving? Ano yung mga drivers? Okay. The second, what can we do about it? Of course, no? What's the point of knowing why they're leaving when hindi naman pala actionable? So, third very important question. What is the financial impact of people leaving? Now, let me emphasize this third question. It's very important. Without this, hindi na siya HR analytics. Because remember, you have to link the business outcomes with the HR concern. Attrition is an HR concern, but you have to link it, show the business impact, because otherwise top management would have, won't have the concern for that. So importante ang third question ito. Otherwise, without this third question, it's just like any question that HR is concerned, curious lang. Okay, And then they formulated hypotheses, no, for each of the questions. Third and fourth step, this is the technical side. You collect the data. The data sources could come from different sources. And in fact, we're saying here that you don't need complete organized data kaagad. Okay? Yes, it might require some technical details, technical competencies, but not necessarily, no? Sometimes kaya na, no, ng low level ng mga analysis natin. Then, the fifth step, you have to reveal the insights. So these are some of the insights, no, based on each of the questions that they were looking at. They found out na it has nothing to do with being babae or lalaki. Diverse, yung whether you're a minority or not. So wala, nagkamali sila, akala nila yung isa sa hypothesis nila. But what they found out, which kinagulat nila, it has something to do with lateral moves. When employees are not given opportunities for lateral moves, they are 48% more likely to leave, no, less likely to leave. Which parang at the back of their minds, parang alam nila, but at the same time, parang nagulat din sila, ay, yun pala yan? Malaking factor pala siya. Yun yung characteristic ng mga insights, na most of the time parang akala mo alam mo, pero unless the data is showing, kaya mo biglang nasabi, ay, oo nga, no, nagulat ka, na parang trivial, but at the same time, big deal pala based on the data. Financial impact. They were able to quantify that for every 1% point decrease in attrition, Nielsen will be able to avoid approximately $5 million in business costs. So, nasagot na natin yung tatlong question. Okay? And then, of course, they have recommendations for each of these insights. So, sabi na, focus on lateral moves. Meron na silang ready-to-predict program. They improve their onboarding program, and so on. And then, you have to get your point across. Now, this is where you might have heard of the term data storytelling. This is where data storytelling comes in. In data storytelling kasi, even if you have really brilliant, earth-shattering insights, importante the way you communicate it. So yes, you have a data, but data in itself cannot always convince. You need a good story, a good narrative to come with it. Kasi when data is paired with a nice, effective narrative, you are able to explain it. Okay? Kaya lang, narratives, kwento is not enough. You need visuals. Visuals combined with narrative and backed up with data will allow you to become engaged, yung audience, no? So you're able to explain carefully the impact, enlighten, and engage. And you need these three elements for your audience, your target person who you're trying to convince to really change. Because sometimes good explanations are not enough. Fancy visuals are not enough. You have to merge those, no? Data, narrative, visuals. It's a powerful way of getting your point across. Insight without action is overhead. No? Kasi if you fail to convince the people that you need to convince, sayang, waste, no? All your efforts, gastos na yun eh. No? So kung hindi ka umabot doon sa na-convince mo, no, yung decision makers, then gastos lang ang ending niya. So in their case, they were able to convince top management, and then they started, no, communicating it, no, showing the impact along the way, And then, pinilot test na nila no, sa different few countries for a while. And then they were able to show immediate results. No? Attrition was 2 points lower in the first 8 months, translating to a benefit of $10 million. Following the successful implementation sa US, now they rolled it out all over the world. Okay, so yun yung 8-step process. Now, you might say, hindi pa nga kami nagsisimula, parang ang laki-laki nitong mga ganitong project. Yes, I'm just showing you a big ticket project, but if you're just starting out, you might not have enough resources, baka wala pa kayong tao, baka hindi pa nga convincing top management nyo. Here are some learning points. No? Una, you don't need to have really giant big projects, no? Earth-shattering projects. Sabi nga, identify quick wins. Ibig sabihin yung mga low-hanging fruits. Yung mga nandyan na, yung hindi ka mapapagastos masyado. Ibig sabihin the data is already there. And chances are, you already have enough data there to start with something. Ano yung mga quick win projects? Let me show you some. For example, turnover, retention. No? You could do a key drivers analysis. Find out what are the key drivers, why your employees are leaving. Quantitative, because ang tendency ng maraming HR, they rely on exit interviews. Mind you, qualitative data, hindi. Daming off dyan, daming kulang dyan. Quantify the cost of turnover. Meron ba kayong ganun tinatrack? Make sure you know that, yung cost of turnover nyo. For every ranked file na nawawala, magkano ang actual cost niyan sa inyo? Paano kung supervisors? Paano kung managers? Kasi once you have that, you could easily make a business case sa top management. Ang taas ng attrition natin, no? For every one employee that we lose, this much ang mawawala sa company, no? So we need to address, the following points. Recruitment. You could start by profiling your best performers. You already have the data. You have historical data. No, you quantify the profile of high-performing employees. And based on the data coming from these high-performing employees, yung past data nila, you could actually create algorithms. You could create algorithms and use it for recruitment purposes. So that in the future, alam mo na kaagad yung likelihood, the probability that this applicant will become a high performer or not. Engagement. Many companies are tracking their engagement year in, year out. You do that, right? Nagpapa-survey kayo every year. And then you track, tumaas, bumaba. Happy na kayo dun sa taas, baba. That's just descriptive. Okay? Move to the next level. Mag-predictive ka na. You can link the changes in your engagement scores with gains in profitability and sales. Yung mga customer metrics ninyo, pwede yan. But I have yet to see companies doing that. No? Because ang excuse natin karamihan, HR has no access to sales data, no access to customer data. That's a problem there. That's why you need to link data from HR, from operations, from finance, from marketing, the customer side. In terms of leadership, these are easy stuff to do. You could actually compute the ROI of leadership effectiveness. Yung mga leadership trainings natin, you could quantify the peso returns there. Store manager leadership impact. Leadership impact on talent attraction, talent development, engagement, profitability, and so on. Right? So very promising, di ba? Now, why am I saying these are quick wins? You might say, parang ang daming resources ang kailangan. No, because most of this, I'm almost certain, you already have the data for this. It's just there, sitting sa mga drives ninyo, sa computer ninyo. Right? It's just a matter of running that analysis. Secure the right sports sponsorship. That's the second critical success factor. Mahirap mag-convince, right? Kasi may konting gastos to. So make sure you approach the right persons who could make the decisions. Or, takutin nyo sila. Kung sino naaapektuhan na manager, yun ang madaling mako-convince. No? Kung sa kanila ang bagsak, no, ng impact. Don't wait for the perfect data. Itong laging naririnig naming excuse sa mga clients namin. Ayusin muna namin yung aming HRIS. Malapit na, mga 2 taon na lang. No, you can't wait for perfect data. Even large corporations, multinational corporations don't have that. They can't have that perfect data, the one giant database. Nope. Walang ganyan. Now start with whatever you have. Analytics doesn't stop with analysis. You have to tell the story. Why? Because you need to convince people to change, to move, and accept your recommendations. So you need to have those skills. So, kung titingnan nyo, anong kailangan nyo yun ng mga skills ng tao or ng group? No? Actually, I'm referring more to a group. Kasi when you do HR analytics, mahirap itong gawin na mag-isa ka lang. So usually may team kayo. No? Just make sure na yung team ninyo has both sets of competences here. No? Kasi when you do HR analytics, it's both a science and an art. No? May scientific side, may art side. Yung scientific side niya, yun yung running the analysis, collecting the data, and all that. So, yes, you might need deep technical expertise there in terms of content, in terms of the process. But, again, it's not an excuse na, wait, do I need to hire a data scientist? Do I need to hire a statistician for this? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay? In fact, what we're always telling yung mga clients namin, na in the trainings that we run, we teach HR practitioners the basic tools and techniques. And when I say HR practitioners, hindi yung may technical background. Kahit walang technical background, we can teach you the basic tools and techniques which could already solve and address 80 to 90% of the questions you can think of. So lahat ng mga business questions na maisip nyo, parang 4 or 5 tools lang yan kailangan nyo. And you don't need deep technical expertise for those. So yun yung mga developments na nangyayari dyan. But there's an artistic side to HR analytics. Ito na yung tinatawag nilang analytics translator. These are the skills that you need to do the storytelling, sinasabi ko. Trying to convince, creating the visuals, ability to market your idea. So you need people from both sides. Mahirap tumahanap sa isang tao lang because some have the technical expertise pero wala silang, the marketing side of it. So you need both sets of competencies there. All right, last 9:59 na. Let me just share one last case study with you to give you an idea of what are the possibilities here. In JetBlue, ito yung one of the low-cost airlines sa US. Parang Cebu Pacific natin. So it's award-winning, malaki, 12,000 employees. Now, when they did this HR analytics project, their business question was, they want to connect yung ginagawa ng HR nila na they track employee engagement, which I guess most of you do, no? Pero, sige, track tayo ng track para saan? Para sa ano? As far as top management is concerned, you have to connect it with the business outcomes like customer loyalty, revenue, profit. Parang hirap i-connect, no? If I have happy, engaged employees, how does it translate to profitability? Now, in quantitative terms, that's what we need. So they have these metrics. So ang HR, meron silang tinatawag na eNPS, Employee Net Promoter Score. Yung sa marketing naman, meron silang CNPS, Customer Net Promoter Score. So yun ang ginamit nilang metrics for employee engagement and customer satisfaction. Now, itong loyalty, revenue, profit, of course, may peso value na tayo dyan. So madali na ito. No? So the challenge is how to connect these three. Now, for those of you na not familiar with the NPS concept, yung NPS, ito yung tinatanong sa inyo, halimbawa, when you buy something or avail of the service of a company, may pa-survey sila bigla na on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you going to recommend this product, this service, this company to your friends? Diba? Pag sumagot ka ng 6 and below, tawag sa'yo detractor. Kung 7 or 8, you are called a passive. Kung 9 or 10, ano ka? Promoter ka dyan. And then they compute what we call a net promoter score. The percentage of those who rated promoters na mataas minus the percentage of those who are detractors. So yun yung NPS. So merong employee NPS, meaning how likely are you going to recommend the company, JetBlue, as a place to work for? And then yung customers, tinatanong pag sumasakay sa aeroplano, how likely are you going to recommend JetBlue? No? Sumakay ka ulit sa JetBlue para sa mga kapitbahay, sa mga kapamilya. No? So you have two separate metrics here. And then you run the analytics to connect the two, and then you add the third set of data. Yung tinatrack nila na revenue, profitability, loyalty. Right? What did they find out? That indeed there is a connection. When employee NPS is high, customer NPS is also high. Ako nung nabasa ko, parang paano na kaya ginawa ito? Well, this is how they do it. Di ba, pag sumakay ka sa aeroplano, halimbawa Cebu Pacific, pag sakay mo, may pilot, may flight attendant, kung ilan man sila, and then, I don't know, may mga support staff probably. So let's say for every flight, there are 6 staff. So alam mo yung net promoter score, yung engagement score ng 6 na yun. So meron kang flight employee engagement score. Oh, may mga customers for that. Pagbaba nila ng aeroplano, makaka-receive sila kagad ng text, rate your flight experience with us. O, may customer data ka na. So, per flight. For every flight, meron kang 6 employees, meron kang, let's say, 200 customers, may data ka for that, and then you connect it with all other metrics. See? Ano nakuha nila? A 5% increase in NPS resulted in 10% increase in employee discretionary effort, yung extra effort beyond the usual expectation. 5% decrease in likelihood to form a union. 5% increase in customer NPS. And ito importante, the financial impact. A 1% increase in revenue, which translates to $26 to $96 million. See, you could create these conclusions using a set of simple statistical tools, provided that you have the right set of data. That is the power of HR analytics. Okay, so now I'd like to open the floor. I have some other case studies here, but I'm not sure kung ipro-provide na alay namang ang ano to. But let me open the floor for your questions or clarifications.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Marcia, for that very enlightening discussion. So to our participants, I'm inviting everyone to please type in your questions here in our chat box so that we can address the question to Dr. Marcia.
Well, actually, Joms, you can, kung sino man, you could just open your mics and directly ask your question. It's fine as well.
So feel free po na i-open natin or i-unmute natin yung sarili natin para mas madali nating may address ni Dr. Marshall yung inyong mga katanungan.
Hi, sir.
Good morning, Merly. Go ahead.
I'm asking kasi usually talaga kasi sa mga employees, they want to know kailan sila mag-increase about sa salary. So, paano po may analyze to yung sa ano nila, yung performance, kung i-increase ba or not? Thank you.
Okay. Right. Medyo mahirap na question. Ito two ways, two perspectives. Of course, from an employee perspective, syempre laging increase, diba? But from a management perspective, of course, may mga limitations tayo, may mga constraints, hindi na pwedeng basta na lang mag-increase, no? Even if we can afford to do so, there are other considerations, no? Mga benchmarks natin, and so on. Siguro, one interesting question to ask there, no, is, ano ba talaga ang impact ng salary sa performance, sa motivation? Do you know that we have been tracking hundreds of companies already in the past few years, you know? And then we are tracking engagement, attrition, even mental health. No? May mga key indicators kami tinitingnan. And then we look at different predictors. And one of the predictors that we are using is satisfaction with salary, satisfaction with benefits. Believe it or not, very rarely, or I have yet to see a company where lumabas sa analysis na ang salary is a significant predictor of engagement. So yung hindi yung salary ang nagpapasaya, nagpapa-motivate sa empleyado. It's necessary but hindi siya key driver. In fact, a lot of cases happens that minsan even the higher the salary is, mas lalong tumataas yung attrition. I mean, counterintuitive, no? But it's because probably you are not addressing the right set of drivers, no? To motivate, to keep your people, hindi sila umalis. So, yun yung thoughts ko, no? So, you could really use analytics to determine the role of salary. May impact pa talaga siya sa engagement natin? Is it really the reason why people are resigning? Assuming, of course, that you meet the minimum standards, no? Parang at par naman kayo with your competitors and so on. Eh kung hindi talaga kayo at par, no? Talagang way below kayo the benchmark, external factor na yun. That's the reason probably that kaya sila umaalis. So you might want, no, to consider, ano ba talaga ang papel ng salary? I hope I was able to address your question, Bert.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think giving yung parang kawang gawa siguro na participation nila na to sa effort nila na maging alam ng management siguro.
Right. Yeah, never assume that it's always salary that drives people, no, to stay in the company or leave the company. Kasi most of the time, hindi eh.
So parang ano lang pala nila yun, yung trick na maano sila, mapansin.
Yeah, and it's the natural tendency, no? Parang, syempre, who wouldn't want a higher salary, di ba? But if you analyze the data, assuming you have the right data, you'll be surprised. No? There are other things that motivate and drive employees. No? Okay. Any other question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bert.
Any more questions from our participants? Yan. Especially do sa mga na-disconnect kanina and nakapasok lang ulit ngayon. So feel free po to type in your questions here in our chat or kindly mute your microphone na lang para at least mas ma-direct natin na mai-address yung question ni Dr. Valente.
Good morning, Dr. Valencia.
Good morning, Wilson. Sige, go ahead.
Yes, what kind of tools are available out there for predictive HR analytics?
Okay. Right, let me share this. Okay, you can actually see this from our web page now. Okay, two things. You could have statistical tools, no, or techniques to really, connect the relationships between the scores, between the values that you're looking at. So kung nakita nyo dun sa mga case studies, the conclusions that you can make na, for every 5% increase and so on, those are statistical tools.
Okay.
Pero laging sabihin mo, teka, wala akong kaalam-alam sa statistics, no? Aaralin ko pa yan, and so on. No. Ito, I'm just sharing this in advance, no?
Mm-hmm.
And our basic statistical tools na training, yung basic HR analytics tools and techniques na training namin, even for those without any technical background, kahit wala kang kaalam na kahit bokya ka pa sa math nyo, sa statistics, we teach you like 3 basic tools. Using very simple tools at free softwares ito. Una, there's it's called Jamovi. It's a recently developed tool, open source, meaning libre siya. Hindi mo kailangang gumastos. And all you have to do is just click, and feed the values that you need, and it generates the analysis for you. So, yun ang isang tool. No? And then the second tool that we are encouraging, ito yung Power BI, Microsoft Power BI. This is also an open source software. Whereby, ito, nakikita nyo ngayon sa screen, you could easily generate dashboards like this, and incorporate the analysis here. So for example, this is data that we got from one of the companies that we're guiding. For example, we collect the data, survey data on how employees perceive, trust, teamwork, recognition. These are the typical employee surveys that we do. So may data kayo, may mga scores, nasa spreadsheet yan, di ba? And then, we run what we call a regression analysis to see its impact on engagement, job satisfaction, their intention to stay, even job performance. We can connect that, employee net promoter score. No? And then it generates all these numbers. Now you might say, wala akong kaalam-alam dyan. Yun yung point eh. The tools that we're sharing with you, even wala kang background, in a day, magigets mo na paano ma-generate ito. And we are even teaching you how to generate this entire dashboard. And sa Power BI, ito, don't be daunted with the term. No? May machine learning. May machine learning tool siya. No? And again, you don't have to know anything about machine learning. You don't need to know anything about programming. Kasi puro click lang siya. And it generates visuals for you and very powerful insights. Like yung mga ito, na-generate ng Power BI. I want to know what are the key drivers of engagement in my company, and it will generate these figures for you. Sasabihin niya sa'yo, okay, no need to look at recognition, no need to look at role clarity, kasi as far as engagement is concerned, the data is showing that you need to work on trust, you need to work on career development, you need to work on teamwork. But if you want to address attrition, bakit sila nagre-resign? It has something to do with career development. It has something to do with recognition, role clarity, but not all other factors. So see, parang napaka-powerful na insights, but how did I generate this? Power BI will help you do that. And you could easily do those. Yep.
Okay.
So yun lang, kahit yun ang basic tools. And yun yung napansin ko, kasi of course we have a lot of tools in our arsenal, but 3 or 4 of the basic tools is sufficient to address any business question that you have. Yung mga pinakita ko sa inyo kanina na case studies, you'll be surprised. 2 basic tools lang ginagamit, and yet they are able to generate ganun ka-powerful na mga insights.
Thank you.
Yeah. Once you have dashboards like this, we teach you how to create these dashboards. Now, for example, I want to analyze ito, attrition risk. So may data na, no? Naka-feed yan, naka-Excel lang yan yung mga data. No? So I want to analyze sino yung high attrition risk. Sino yung most likely magre-resign na. So 178 yan sila out of 500 employees. Saan sila galing? Makikita ko. Anong department sila galing? Ano yung profile nila? Makikita ko. So these are all descriptive analytics. Qualitative, kaya din, no? Ano yung mga sinasabi nila, bakit ako aalis? Itong high na ito, na 178, ito yung dahilan nila, bakit sila aalis. Now, if you want to see yung low naman, so I just click low, 194 yan, ito yung naman mga sinasabi ng low. So see, you could qualitatively analyze these things. Again, wow, this is so daunting, no? Sa training namin, tuturuan namin to actually generate these kinds of dashboards. No?
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, so just a quick time check, Dr. Mercia, no? So it's already 10:17 a.m. So I think we can still entertain one last question.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Hello. Hi, Dr. Valencia and
Good
Jomar.
morning.
Hi,
Yes,
Miss
good
Val.
morning. Yeah, so we're a remote company, and I wanted to ask, we're currently tracking our employee engagement remotely, and of course, alam mo yung parang hindi mo sila nakikita, and it's kind of hard to see or tell if they're engaging. So I really resonated what you said when it comes to intuition, but we do want to be more data driven. So can you share us like a criteria, like maybe an advice on how we can track employee engagement that is effective, or like how can we maximize employee productivity and engagement? Sorry, that was a lot of questions, but yeah, if you know what I mean. Just trying to understand how we optimize in a remote company.
Well, una, the challenge there is to select and identify the metric that you're going to use. So how do you, ano yung measure niyo of engagement? No? There are objective measures. For example, sabi mo remote kayo, baka, I don't know, do you have the facility to actually track ilang minutes sila online? No? I don't know, yung nature of outputs. No? Call centers, for example, are, they can easily track performance and all that. No? But the second thing that you need to consider is the psychological level of engagement, which can only be measured from the employee side, no? Not from your system side. No? So for that, you need surveys. No? Surveys that you administer, I don't know how often ba kayo, no? Typically once a year, but some companies actually do it, may alam kaming company, like every month. No? So they have just a system, no, for collecting that each employee will rate, may mga questions lang to capture engagement, for example. And then, may score na yung employee at a given period. So you use that as an advice. So for engagement, it has got to be two ways. No? Yung more objective, which is based on, kung may system kayo. At yung second one is the psychological level. So always track as much as possible both. No? But in practice, most companies are just capturing the psychological level. And most of the time, valid na siya. It's enough to actually correlate with actual performance. So yun yung challenge doon. No? Having the right metric, having the way to actually capture those.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Valencia.
You're welcome.
And with that, thank you so much, Dr. Valencia, for your very insightful short discussion on HR analytics. So before we conclude this learning session, let me just share my screen. Mm. Okay, so ayan. So let me know yan if nakikita na ho ba natin ang screen natin. So ayan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So again, before we end this learning session, please don't forget to answer the evaluation. So you can go to the link provided in the chat box, or you can also scan the QR code provided here in your screen. So yung evaluation ho natin, yun ho yung magsaserve as your attendance na to make sure kung naka-attend nga ho ba tayo dito sa ating learning session. And of course, meron ho tayong certificate na ibibigay sa inyo. So kindly indicate rin ho pala yung name na magre-reflect doon sa certificate ninyo, and also indicate the email address kung saan namin isa-send yung inyong certificate. So again, please don't forget sa mga kapapasok lang din po or na-reconnect, please don't forget to answer the evaluation. Go to the link provided in our chat box, and you can also scan the QR code here provided in your screen. So I believe our sales manager, Miss Ann Chen, will have a few messages. Miss Ann?
Yes, hi. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sir Jomar. Before we end our workshop or webinar, we'd like to take this chance to invite everyone to please join our upcoming trainings and webinars. We hope to see you again on July 20, that's 9 to 10:30 a.m., as we talk about how managing your time will help you navigate towards efficiency, productivity, and success. This is entitled Working Smart, a time and self-management webinar. And then on July 26, we have a webinar entitled Creating Safe Spaces in the Workplace, an Introduction to the Bawal Bastos Law. That's 6 to 7:30 p.m. Next, we have Ignite the Spark, Motivating Your Team to Success. Through this webinar, employees will get back to their feet and find motivation to be productive, efficient, and joyful at work. Happening on July 27, 9 to 10:30 a.m. We also have Eating Well for a Flourishing Mental Health on August 3, that's 9 to 10:30 a.m. This aims to eliminate myths about diet fads and give enlightenment on its importance to well-being. And now we also have training on HR analytics, the tools and techniques you need. This training will convincingly show business leaders the direct impact of HR processes and initiatives on business outcomes. This is happening on August 2 to 4, 8:30 to 12 noon. Another webinar, we have Counting Sheep to Sleep, the Role of Sleep in Our Well-Being on August 10, 9 to 10:30 a.m. This webinar aims to educate participants on the significance of sleep on their well-being. And we also have Money and Mental Health, Why Financial Literacy Matters. This will provide knowledge and learning to employees on how financial and mental health are related, the effect of financial stress, and what financial literacy is. This is happening on August 17, 9 to 10:30 a.m. And last on our list for this quarter, we have planning and creating mental health activities for remote and hybrid workforce. This training will equip the participants in creating mental health activities that is fit to work from home and hybrid employees, which will then support their mental health program. This will be on August 23 to 24, 8:30 a.m. to 12 noon. Okay, so with the webinars that we provided or I mentioned, it's only for 490 per webinar. But if you sign up any 2 webinars, you only pay 900 pesos. So this promo is valid for this month. So make sure to register before the month ends. Okay, so don't forget to like and follow our social media accounts to get updates on our upcoming projects and trainings. We have our Facebook page, PVPIPH. We also have our LinkedIn account, PVPI. We have Instagram, pvpi.ph. And of course, we have we also have our YouTube account, PVPTV, and our website, www.pvpi.co. Okay, so that's it. Back to you, Jomar. Thank you.
And with that, thank you so much, Miss Anne, for those upcoming events of PVP. No? So with that, this concludes our learning session on HR analytics. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Valencia, for sharing your expertise and unending knowledge on analytics. No? So again, thank you so much to our participants who attended our learning session. And feel free to message us if you have more questions and concerns in our upcoming events. And with that, thank you so much and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir MV. Thank you,
Thank you
Jomar.
po.
Thank you.
But who else could I be?